And because of that experience, it just gave me enough confidence to be like, oh, you can be an artist and a Latina in the workforce, which has really pushed my way probably into New York too with that, because I was like, wow, I was one of 25 kids in the nation to be picked for that.
So thank you, Luz, for joining me on the Chat Mini podcast. Just a little background about Luz and I. The way I know Luz is because she's my cousin. So I've known her pretty much my whole life. And I feel like Luz has like an inspiring story that other people could gain experience, not experience, but gain knowledge off of her experience. Like from what she went through and whatever the story she has to tell, like people will definitely learn from that. You know what I mean? So where I want to start off, Luz, is dance for you. Like that I remember is dance. You've danced your whole life, right? Like since you were little?
Yeah, I started when I was 6.
Mm-hmm.
Like I took it seriously since I was 6 years old, like danced on and off before then. And then at 6, I danced at a school here in Albuquerque, New Mexico called La Mesa Dance Academy. And I got into my first dance company with that school called Energy and Motion when I was 10, and had my first solo at 10. And then I danced through high school on and off a little bit then because I was dealing with an injury, and then decided to pursue a dance major in college, which I did. I got my bachelor's of dance modern contemporary from the University of New Mexico, and I took a semester abroad at Disney college program.
That's awesome. I love that.
But, I took a semester to go work at Disney World, and I was a character performer, which was super fun.
Did you know you wanted to dance your whole life, or it's because you were put in dance? You're like, all right, cool, I'll just do this.
No, I definitely knew I wanted to dance. So okay, so I got into dance because my older sisters, right? We were cousins.
Yeah.
uh, they grew up dancing, so I definitely saw my sisters perform, and they would do more community theater shows here in Albuquerque, and I was completely inspired by them. I guess it was either going to be martial arts or dance because my older brother does martial arts, right? So I definitely tried that when I was like 3, 4. That's what I'm saying. Before then, I didn't take it as seriously in the dance world until I was 6, whatever that means. But nonetheless, I was still movement related until then. So I danced because my sister. I just grew up watching that, and then I would watch New York City Ballet documentaries because my sisters were into it, and I just always just thought, wow, being a New York dancer, that's what I want to do. So yeah, that's always been what I just knew it. I just knew that's what I wanted to do from the time I was little.
The struggles that you went through before we get to New York, like did you go through any struggles or any time you wanted to give up in dance, like during that time leading to New York?
Completely. I mean, okay, so like I said, in high school, I didn't really dance on and off there because I was dealing with injuries. I was diagnosed with sciatica pain as a 16-year-old.
That's
And
early. That's young.
Yeah. It was super young. Like it made no sense. Yeah, I would go to doctors, or I just would be in so much pain. And I remember my dance teachers being like, "Are you faking it?" Because I was in just so much pain. And I could just feel the
I believe you.
I don't know. I mean, right. I mean, obviously I wasn't, but I was just in so much pain that I was like, maybe I could push through this, maybe not. Anyways, so I was dancing on and off between like my sophomore and senior year in high school. And I took that time to I would take a dance class maybe one semester and then not continue the next semester. So I looked very flaky in terms of my dance professionalism and seriousness, which was a critical time as a high schooler, because normally if you're going to be a professional dancer right after high school, you're going out auditioning if you're a really high caliber dancer. And so I took the college route, obviously, because that's an option. That's an option.
Mhm.
And that's the option I took. Because obviously I was not prepared by the time I ended high school to go off and audition for a company or anything. So I went to the University of New Mexico, again, just kind of worked out in terms of scholarships, just like, let's just take what is given to me. There's still a dance program there. And that first year, first freshman year of college, I just remember not being sure if I really did want to be a dance major. I definitely did what most freshmen do and kind of like figure their way out through freshman year of college. And I took flamenco, actually. I took flamenco dance then.
Yeah.
And then I decided, oh, Disney college program, because Disney kid at heart, loved Disney, always loved Disneyland and Disney World, and I knew I wanted to perform there. So I took advantage of the Disney college program and auditioned my sophomore year. And then
Tell us about that experience, like going to Disney by yourself. You didn't go with any friends, like you strictly went alone. Like, how
uh,
was that experience for you?
that was fun.
Yeah,
I loved it.
yeah.
Let me see. Well, okay, like I kind of knew some people out there. I had some friends in high school, and that okay, so like my audition for Disney, I went with a friend from here in Albuquerque. He was also just a performer that I met through community theater, and we both decided, let's go do this. So we drove from Albuquerque to Oklahoma City, had our audition out there, and we both got in. So we went around the general time, so I kind of knew people. He
Okay.
was like a week away, and then had another friend or a couple of friends from high school that also went at the same time, not in the performance world. So me and my friend Joey were the only ones in the entertainment world of Disney.
Yeah.
But yeah, then it was just really, I mean, I gotta say now, I realize I was a bit more intimidated and shy. I didn't really break into my own skin at that time. I was learning to break into my skin. So going to Disney World away from family on the East Coast by Disney, I had no car, but they took care of transportation for us. But it was just like all those kinds of some experiences that I realized, oh, I can do this. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was
Did
just
you
really
get homesick at all
no.
when you were there? Wow, I props. Props. I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah, no, I was really upset that I had to come home when my
Yeah.
contract ended. And that's what I'm saying. Like there were some things about just being young. I didn't understand the workforce game. I don't know. I just was learning a lot. And yeah, I didn't know how to be on the inside with managers or all that. Like, again, just like communication style on my end, I was learning and growing. So all of my friends stayed for another term with the Disney college program, and my term ended, like my contract ended. So I was really upset and sad that I had to come back home.
Wait,
It's
well,
actually
why did it end? You couldn't extend it? Or it doesn't work like that?
no, it doesn't really quite work that way. Like I had to have like gone to audition again, or I had to, I don't know, have like certain amount of what do they call it? I don't even know, like point systems, or
Oh,
well, like a record saying like I'm an awesome employee, and I didn't have that. Because I
yeah.
just wasn't interacting.
What? Well, what? I'm sure you were awesome.
I'm sure I was. I don't know. Again, like a confidence level, I didn't know how to have those conversations for myself then, or
Yeah.
then for myself.
Or
Like
just like speak up, right? Like just to speak your
right,
truth. Yeah. Oh
right.
yeah, I get you. I've gone through that too. Yeah. It's pretty
Yeah.
interesting how like we grow from that to now. But even now as adults, I feel like it was still hard for me to speak my truth or in general. And now it's like, oh, it's getting easier. It's okay, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So from Florida, like do you think you going there helped you go to New York? Or how
Yeah,
yeah?
completely. Yeah, there was a friend of mine there who lived in New York. That actually brings me into something else that I remember why I remember going to New York. Because right after high school, I actually applied for the Smithsonian Latino Center uh, Young Ambassadorship right after high school. And that's what really prompted anything in terms of the arts for me to realize, oh, I can do this. So it's this awesome program. It's still around for any high schooler Latino who's into, now they kind of focus it more for business entrepreneurs and science based Latinos, young Latinos who want to be innovators or leaders in the workforce now. And so at the time it was geared more for artists Latinos, and I had submitted my paper with artwork that I drew in high school. So there's like a visual art side to me that I don't always tap into. Trying to work on that.
Yeah.
And then like, sure, I had my dance side for sure. I also, during my injured parts of high school, I got a lot into backstage work with theater. So I kept myself involved in the dance theater world by working as a stage manager or as a stage hand, and I learned the behind the scenes kind of aspect of theater and dance, which was a lot of fun. And I actually got paid for that too. So I had a lot of paid jobs through that. Actually, that's another thing. But like all of my jobs growing up have been somehow arts related with like that, or teaching piano, because my mom's a piano teacher, right? So I taught piano. So I always had a streak of being my own self-employed person by offering music or being a stagehand, or eventually then dancing and performing, getting paid for that. So I always find that a very interesting kind of side to my development. I got into that Smithsonian Latino Center program and young ambassadorship, and I had a week-long internship in Washington D.C. They flew me out there, and we had this whole like week of just workshopping ourselves workshopping ourselves, or just how to be a leader. I'm doing a really poor job at describing this, but basically growing us to be how to be Latino leaders in our nation. And because of that experience, it just gave me enough confidence to be like, oh, you can be an artist and a Latina in the workforce, which has really pushed my way probably into New York too with that, because I was like, wow, I was one of 25 kids in the nation to be picked for that.
Wow.
So very small. Yeah, I was really small, and I was like, wow, that's cool. I can do this.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, okay, I can go to New York. And so, yeah, so I went to DC first, and I was like, I love the East Coast. And then I was like, I'm going to go to Disney World, and I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, at that point, like I met a friend there who at Disney World, who lived in New York prior to being there. So she would talk to me about her struggles about living in New York. And I was like, wow, interesting. Oh, okay. And then I have a friend that I met from the Young Ambassadorship. She was from Queens, New York. So that gave me a really good connection and friend to like be like, oh, I can go over there and check that out.
Yeah.
So because of those connections that I met through the Young Ambassadorship, that's what gave me the confidence to be like, oh, I have someone there. I have like a good home base, or, a good supportive friend. Oops, sorry, my camera's going crazy. So I can go out there.
And that's the beauty of like trying new things, like trying to get out of your comfort zone, because you end up meeting people. Like, yeah. For real, you made up, like for me, it was going to college. I don't like school, right? But my whole why to go to college was because I just wanted to say I have a bachelor's, and because my goal was to get into news. And because I went to college, I met so many people. You know what I mean? But not because I like college. You know what I mean?
I hear you. I didn't like college. I was like
it was like that push that I feel I needed, and then you did the push you feel you needed to get you where you wanted to be. Yeah. So it's very important. Like, people, you guys gotta risk it. Get yourself out there. And because you meet so many connections, and that's so beautiful. You have like friends all around.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes.
So if you didn't get that, it was from that school, if you didn't get picked, would you have gone to New York regardless?
Oh, I'm sure I would have in some way. I just always was so drawn to New York. Like, I remember my mom and dad always being like, why do you want to go to New York? It's dirty. And I'm like, because it's cool.
It's the Big Apple.
Yeah. Like, all the best people go out there. I got to go out there too. I don't know.
I mean, like, when the first time, like when you stepped into New York knowing you're going to live there, like, how did you feel? Or like, what were you thinking?
Oh man, I don't even know. It just felt amazing. Okay, so my very first trip out to New York. Let me think about this. What was my first trip to New York? I remember. I got so it must have been somewhere between my sophomore and junior year of college. So this has got to be like 2000. I don't know, 10,
Yeah, around
12,
there.
I don't know, somewhere in there. And I was probably 12. So I went to New York City for a summer dance intensive with the Joffrey Ballet. That was my other thing. So it was Joffrey Ballet. I went to audition for that. It was a summer program, dance intensive for like a month long, and I got it. And I was like, cool. And so I just remember being like, I have to go out there. I just have to do this. And I did. It was great. And that first month, I was just like, wow, New York is awesome. So I don't know how to describe it. I just remember stepping in that city and being like, I belong here. Like, I just knew I belonged there. Like, I needed to be there. And I didn't want to leave after that 1 month. And I had a friend who also did the same dance program. He ended up staying and doing their whole year-round dance program there at Joffrey, which is quite a leg and an arm, but he did it. So I'm like, that's cool. I'm like, I wish I just dropped out of college and went over there, but that's not my.
That wasn't your path, I guess.
No, it wasn't. I'm like, I could have been financially struggling, and I'm glad I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Which is very real. So that first month there, it's funny. I have a lot of New York clients now. I love it, and we just talk about it. Like, New York just has this vibe, but it's just this energy that just strikes through you when you go in, and it's funny because New Yorkers, like, you either belong or you don't. Like, a New Yorker recognizes another New Yorker. And if you're not from there, you totally stand out like a sore egg, mostly because you're looking up and admiring, and New Yorkers have a place to be and got somewhere to go. And so I remember that first month of me being there, tourists asked me where to go in the city. And I was just like, oh, I don't even live here. And, oh, I must be a New Yorker. I gotta live here now.
Yeah. Did you know, like, where to point them out or what direction? You're like,
grab out my phone. I was like, oh, let's figure this out. And
yeah.
like, I think I go here.
So when you got there, were you were already expecting to live with roommates, right? You already had roommates? And how many roommates did you have?
Okay, so when I actually moved, which was in 2014, so like with the dance program, yes, I had roommates for sure. I think there were 6 of us in one apartment, but they gave us housing, so that was a little different.
Oh, okay.
But when I moved in 2014 to New York, I had a couple of friends here from New Mexico that were moving out at the same time, or I met. It's just interesting, like, how the universe kind of just brings things together. So I was doing Nutcracker for Albuquerque Festival Ballet, and I met a flamenco dancer friend, good friend now, Alice Blumenfeld, and she already lived in New York, went to NYU for school out there, was dancing professionally out over there. And so she gave me a lot of, like, tidbit information of, like, look for this, look for that, or just the ways ins and out of New York. And then same with this other friend, she was getting ready to move out to New York same time I was. So we've teamed up and we're like, let's be roommates together. And so she got out there before I did by like a week. And then she was looking around at the apartments, and then she decided that she was done. She found one place. She found a place in Washington Heights, which was my first apartment. It's on 164 in Fort Washington, right by Columbus. I think Columbus Hospital Presbyterian. Could be totally wrong. I don't remember so much anymore. But anyways, so like I had these 2 awesome roommates. We shared a bedroom. It felt more like college to me than college because we shared a freaking bedroom. It was 3 bedrooms, 4 of us in one apartment. But the rooms were beautiful and spacious, and it was the greatest first apartment, I think, experience that I could have had, minus sharing the room. Not fun. That part was not fun whatsoever. But
well, you were there for like the only thing that kept you. Cause are you the type of person who likes their space?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Okay, I'm the same. Like, I don't mind live. Oh no, maybe I do mind. I don't know. But like for you to live there in New York with roommates, and then trying to fulfill your goal, but then you go back home. Like, did you ever feel like you could just like not deep? What is it like? Just relax and have people leave you alone?
Honestly, I'm such a social butterfly. Like, I'm very extroverted that I was just like, hey guys.
Yeah. What up?
Are you kidding? So my roommate was more the introvert, so she would stay more in the bedroom. I'd be the one more in the family room or the living room, the social living room,
Yeah.
and just chilling out, watching TV. Like that was really, it wasn't until I got to New York that I was like, this is why television is around.
For real.
No, I kid you not. You just want to sit down and veg and do nothing. And I was like, I'm so down for this.
Yeah.
Like, this is why TV series are around, because you go sit home, you're tired from walking around, schlepping around. You just want to sit down and watch some TV.
Because in New York, of course you didn't even have a car. You just had to walk everywhere. That's so true.
Subways.
Was that hard for you to navigate the subway?
Oh, no, actually, it's really simple. Once you
Yeah.
get the hang of it, no, that's not bad. It just can get a lot. I mean, there's just a lot of stimulation. For me, it was moving out there was really hard to, I mean, especially coming from Albuquerque, which is like the complete 180 of New York. New York is constant stimulation, constant. Whether being on, just walking down the street, there's just so many noises and people, and you're just like are on high alert in a different way than you are driving. It's just a different kind of energy. I don't even know how to describe it, but you're just high alert because you're physically acting through, walking, using your own energy to transport yourself. And then in the car, you're just being on the defensive mode, right? Like driving. Like it's just a different, it was so strange actually to navigate that, just those different energies. But yeah, New York is so stimulating. Albuquerque is so not stimulating. There's
It's so
mountain
different.
Exactly.
Okay, so like the whole years you stayed in New York, like how was just that dance experience?
New York tests you in so many ways. And I was definitely tested to see if I wanted to even dance to some degree. I mean, you're constantly going out. Okay, because I went out there as a modern contemporary dancer, mostly because that was what my degree was in. That's what I just finished. Yeah, that was my degree. That was what the style of dance that I was dancing the most. I grew up doing a lot more musical theater, like ballet. No, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, ballet, tap, jazz. Yeah. So I planned to go for musical theater auditions, contemporary auditions, and just like whatever I could find. And I did. It got very stressful in the beginning because one, you have to like figure out jobs and life like that, and then you have to schedule your auditions in between jobs and life. And so it
Yeah.
got a little challenging there. The first year was rough, like definitely. I was transitioning to the city, trying to figure out my niche.
So when you got to New York, did you have a job?
Mm-mm.
But you needed one, right? Like
Oh
to survive for food and stuff.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I totally did the typical New York story of packed 2 bags, went to the city, had no job.
Let's see how this goes.
Let's see how it goes. Yeah. So with that apartment, I got my first job at Lasagna restaurant in Chelsea on 20th and 8th Avenue.
You
So,
remember?
yeah, that I do know. Like that when I got down.
Yeah. Well, were you a server?
I was a hostess.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Intern server, which was a horrible job. I got fired Christmas Eve. Oh no, day after Christmas actually. I was horrible.
No, I tried serving too when I worked at a bowling alley, Oasis Lanes, and trust me, like I sucked. I sucked.
It was so bad. It was really bad, Judith.
What kind of drinks do you want? Water? I don't know.
It smells like cocktails.
Yeah. No,
yeah. Really bad mixed drink.
No, serving is hard. I don't care like what anybody. Serving is the hardest job I feel like I ever took in my life. I can't do it.
Neither can I. No, I found myself being like, "You want salt? Go get it yourself."
Yeah. You want food? Get it yourself. I'm out. That's so funny. So like when you're dancing, and then how many jobs did you have like just to make a living, just to survive while dancing and pursuing your dream?
Ooh, I don't know if I ever actually made it. Okay, towards the end I did. The first year was a struggle. So like I went out with definitely some savings, and that savings definitely kept me
Good.
afloat through that first year. And
Mhm.
then after that, then I was making just enough to cover rent. Honestly, I was definitely the typical starving artist there. So like I said, like the first year I didn't really make anything. I made connections. I found like groups of dancers that I wanted to learn from, teachers that I like training with. So that first year was me trying to figure out what area I wanted to hone into the most. And then I got lucky. I don't know about lucky, but then just like again, past connections through Facebook, I got my first dance job with an old choreographer I worked with in at UNM. If anything, it just gave me chances to take class and meet other dancers, people with similar interests, and it was just like a good way of networking again. And
Because that's what it is, right? It's who you know. Like you could
oh,
have so much talent, but if you don't know anybody, you're not gonna get in, right?
well, yeah, pretty much it's networking and personality. It's like, are you willing to go out there and be someone that, I mean, like especially in dance for dancers and in a dance company, especially, you become family. You're not just two dancers dancing to each other, because again, your body is your art form. You got to be comfortable hanging out with each other. But
Yeah, definitely.
besides that, I mean, we're hours in a studio dancing with each other, touching
Yeah,
each other. You got to be
yeah,
somewhat comfortable.
yeah.
um, yeah. So a lot of networking happened that first year. Uh, and then the second year, that's when I actually danced for Henning and Sense Dance was the modern contemporary company I worked with. And then it just became like a bunch of smaller projects that happened. I mean, I took a dance class with this woman named Cecilia Marta, and she asked me to be part of a video project that she did with a guy named Brian Spin Kicks, I think is the name. Spin Kicks is this video company, and he used to direct videos for Michael Jackson, like really high end people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, from what I heard of him, like he's a big deal. So like I got to do small little projects throughout my time, and then I think my second year there, I was out there for 3 years before I moved back. Um, I started teaching dance and as well. So I taught dance classes up in Pelham, New York, and in New Jersey. And you were talking about like how I made my living. Like it was just a bunch of small jobs. So actually, so like the first job was being a hostess there at Lasagna. And then I also got a front desk job at a Pilates studio, the original Joseph Pilates studio, Rolati's Pilates. And those were my jobs. And I was lucky until I got fired from that one. Then I found another restaurant. And then I was with that job for like a year and a half too, I think, or a year, being another hostess at a very high-end restaurant called Cafe Clover. It's still there in the West Village. And I met a lot of famous people there, which was
Oh,
pretty
nice. How
challenging.
did that affect you? Did it affect you in any way mentally? Like,
Oh,
did you just want to be like, screw this, I give up, I'm going back home? No?
completely all the time.
Uh,
Like, oh yeah. Oh my gosh. All of my jobs were at some point they were a mess.
yeah, yeah. Like, nothing's perfect, right?
Oh no, but everybody would say that. It was interesting. Like everybody I came in contact with that first year was like the first year is the hardest moving here. If you can make it past 5 years, you're doing fine. Like 3 to 5 years is the time that people always told me, like that's when the city will test you. And I'll tell you what, it tested me. So I made it to the 3 year mark, and then that was it for me.
Yeah.
That's okay. But you know what? Like that became a personal choice rather than I had to leave. Well, maybe, but it still became a personal choice.
Yeah. Well, before you left, like, was your goal, you just kept your focus on the goal, right? Like, that's what just kept you there the whole time? Or was
I
it?
mean, yeah, but I'm not gonna lie, the city will is very distracting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to stay focused on the goal in that city because it's just there's like you saw Sex in the City.
Mhm.
there's a comment in that show that says like there's three things you're always chasing in the city. It's a job, a home, or a boyfriend, like a relationship.
Yeah.
And that was very true. Like if one of those three were not intact, it's everything felt shaky, you know. And if yeah, and I mean, all of them happen. You don't want any of those things to be rocky, right? And you're just even in normal life,
Balance.
one of those things, yeah.
Yeah.
So like those are the things that are constantly shifting, and I gotta say the city just will constantly shift all on its own. And I say the city because like I would tell my mom, it is so human concentrated that you feel the pulse of the city by the emotions of people. Like it became a more of an empathetic kind of feeling on a daily basis to know where you were in that city.
Wow, that's tough.
Yeah.
You feel their energy pretty much.
Well, yeah, I mean you're constantly around people, and it was interesting. Yeah, so that's the navigation.
Yeah. I lose. I'm like, well, I'll lose. Like from like my perspective, like my old Luz is doing good. You know what I mean? Like, but in reality, like we all struggle no matter what you do. Like we all have those struggles to reach a goal or whatever it is. But I give you props because you went there, you stayed there for 3 years. Like that's pretty badass, Luz. That is, like you kept trucking on, and then you would still go home sometimes and visit, and you were able to go to home like for Christmas, and so it was not that bad, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. It really wasn't like, yeah, you make what you know make anything out of life, right? Your perspective is everything.
Exactly. It's all about
So yeah,
perspective.
it is. It
Yeah.
is. So yeah, no, I'm definitely proud of myself for going. I mean, I still go back. I was back before quarantine.
Which is good. But you know what? Like, I feel like, well, obviously, like everything happens for a reason. You probably came back because, you know, God knew like this was gonna happen. So he's like, oh, Luz, I gotta keep you safe. You know what I mean? Like, gotta put you over here. It's crazy.
Not even kidding. No, not even kidding. Like, I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. So while in New York, thank God you weren't there for quarantine. You're back home now. But you went there for dance, but then you found your love for Pilates while you were there as well, right? Like talk about that. Like how did you transition from dance to Pilates in New York?
So that kind of fell into my lap. Like I said, like that was the second job that I got in New York, being the front desk at the original Pilates studio. So so ironically so like my dance injuries, right? In high school I took Pilates in high school. There was a good family friend who owned her own Pilates studio here in Albuquerque, and I went to go see her to start helping with some of my back issues, sciatica pain, and I felt like it was working to a point, and then I had to stop because of, again, finances. Always something like that.
Same, you know? Girl, same.
It's okay. I'm gonna make millions someday. Exactly, we are. And so before I moved out to New York, I almost delayed my move so I could get Pilates trained and then go out there thinking like, oh, I'll bring a skill out there to the city. And then I realized, I don't know, I think it was just myself just being like, why am I going to do that? Like, that's dumb. Just go out there. It will just somehow happen. And it did. So when I got that front desk job, the owner, her name is Roberta Kirschenbaum, who is my mentor now. And, my New York mother is like how I like to describe her.
Love it.
Yeah, like the Jewish mother that I never had. That's really how I refer to her. She asked me if I wanted to be a Pilates teacher within that first interview of her hiring me. And I was like, yes, I do. So she was like, okay, because I'm trying to train a group of teachers. And I was like, oh, great. Okay, wonderful. So I worked with her I stayed with her throughout the whole time. So if anything, I had one consistent job. It was with her because she always gave me the flexibility I needed as a dancer because she grew up dancing in the city too. And then she just, Yeah. I mean, we have our own crazy relationship there in the beginning, but it worked. It worked. And I'm so grateful for her now. And so, yeah, I trained at her studio, or I worked her front desk. She gave me free Pilates classes because I worked the front desk, which was awesome. So it helped give me some kind of maintenance for my body as a dancer, which was important. And then as soon as I said that I wanted to become a teacher, then actually kind of kicked her butt into gear for that one, because she was like not gonna do it. And I was working for her already for a year.
Uh-huh.
And I really wanted to be trained by her. I was also really intrigued by her because, again, she owned the original Joseph Pilates studio, and her mentor was a protege of Joseph Pilates, Carola Trier. So she was a second generation Pilates classical teacher, meaning that the information came straight from Joseph Pilates, the creator of Pilates himself.
Okay.
And that's why I wanted to learn from her, because she offered it from the beginning. And I was like, you know the stuff. And she knew the stuff. She knows the stuff. And yeah, that's how I kind of got back into Pilates. It's always been kind of in and out of my life with my injuries in the dance world. And so, yeah, I got trained by her, and I finished my whole certificate of teaching and training, taught for her for that last year that I was there in New York. And then
That was around the time that you moved back already?
Yeah. So as soon as I completed my certificate, actually she gave me my certificate right before I moved, because she was like, all right, you're leaving, here's your certificate. But it was a 600-hour training program. Basically, it was an apprenticeship of like 2 years of me working with her, because I worked for her for 3 years, right? First year, and the last 2 I was with her.
Yeah.
I was always there at the studio. I was either working the front desk, working around the studio, or I was training, I was watching, I was observing. I learned a lot of amazing teachers from around the world in the Pilates world, a lot of major names that ended up being teachers of mine too, which was very, very lucky and very, very special.
Yeah.
Very, very unique for what most Pilates trainings are now, because it was basically an apprenticeship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, completely. It's your old school way of being taught.
Yeah.
A studio. Okay. But I loved it. I love that kind of training, because that for me is my learning style. I need to be around it to really draw it in. So yeah, so that kicked off everything for me after I was, left New York and came back here. That's what propelled me to advance myself, because that was the best skill I could have myself.
When you went back home, like you already had the mindset of, I'm gonna have my own Pilates studio, or it was like, obviously it took time, but how did that come about?
Okay, so so I haven't said this yet, but I came back home to have my daughter, right? So I haven't said that yet. And that was just because the best support system is always family, right? And that's why I left New York. Again, I had amazing friends out there who offered a lot of help and support to have my daughter out there, but I just felt like I needed to come home. So there was that. And so with that mindset, again, I'm like, well, I have to take care of me and my daughter. And that's really what just propelled everything moving forward. I mean, I think about it now, like I was 6 months pregnant when I came back home, and the first week that I got back, I think I started submitting resumes off just around town to any studio that was nearby or that I wanted interest or I was interested in. And that paid off, because then I started teaching again within like the next month. So yeah, within a couple of weeks, probably like 3-4 weeks of not having any work when I moved back, then I started teaching again. And then I had my daughter in September. And I was teaching up till like the Friday before I was going to have her.
Yeah.
And then I went back to teaching 2 weeks after I had Lucia. I was just like, okay, got to go back. I'm like, I don't know, crazy. I'm like, well, what was I thinking? God, maternity leave? No, 2 weeks is fine.
You know what that is? Because you love what you do. Don't you?
That's so. Yeah, I definitely think so. I think it was also just like, get me out of here.
You would just make it work as a single mom.
Not even
You have
kidding.
to, right?
Yeah, I had to. And I mean, my parents were awesome too. They would come sometimes bring her to me while I was at work. So in between, I could feed her and
That's awesome. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
grandma, grandpa.
See you later. Yeah. Do you miss dance? Like, I know you're doing Pilates full on, but do you miss dance right now?
Oh, yeah, completely. I mean, I've been lucky that I've had some dance come in and out since I've been back, but it's definitely not the same. I mean, not the same caliber of,
Mhm.
that's out there in New York. This is just not the same. But it's perfect. It is what it is. I can't say I'm mad about it, but I definitely miss it. There's a part
Yeah.
of it, yes, completely. And to some degree, I think it was time for it to let go for me, just based on my body and my life and
Yeah.
circumstances.
Sometimes things just come to an end. You're like,
Yeah,
all right, I gotta let it go. Yeah.
exactly. And for me, I mean, I stopped dancing kind of young. Really, I mean, my career was really short. It was really basically just that New York time, which I knew was. This is sometimes where I wonder if I self manifested that, and I think I did.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I realize that now, those kind of shortcomings of realizing like, oh, I'm only gonna dance for a little bit. And the only reason why I thought that was because of, again, my injuries were a little extensive. So, oh
It kind
well.
of stopped you. But you know what? It's never too late. We could still dance again. It's all good. Like, we can still
Yeah.
dance.
Right. And that's what I mean. Like, I haven't stopped dancing. I
Good.
mean, I still dance here in Albuquerque with like a, I mean, I've choreographed actually more than ever before since I've been back. And I was actually trying to transition that way in New York to more choreography than performance. I just figured like that was smart, and
Yeah.
it happened. But
Everything
yeah,
just feels like laid out for you. In a way, if you think about it, like you're just like trucking on and like, all right, it's just you're like, okay,
yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Oh, not even kidding. I mean, like that's all my choreography jobs. I mean, it's not like I went to go out to seek them. They all just are like, Luce, are you interested? I'm all,
Yeah.
sure. Oh yeah, yeah, me. We'll do it.
I love that. I so love that. So, like, let's talk about your Pilates studio.
Oh
How
yeah.
did it, like, from the beginning? Like, how did you end up starting it? What was the process like? And just give us some insight on that.
Sure. So my Pilates studio. All right. So like I said, when I came back home, I was being an independent contracted teacher at all these different Pilates studios, and I got a good sense of what that was like already being in New York, being kind of an independent contractor there. But that's how most studios work. Anyway, so I'm working at these different studios here in Albuquerque. I was teaching at like 3, 4. I even taught up in Santa Fe. So like, okay, I a good general idea of all these studios around town that I could have just stayed with and worked with. However, I realize in terms of money, I make more if I own the studio.
Yeah.
There's that. And I also realized that there was a kind of ambiance that I was looking for to work in that I wasn't feeling at all these different locations. They're all amazing, don't get me wrong, but there was just a certain aesthetic that I felt like, oh, I could bring this to the table in this city. And based on the feedback that I was receiving from my clients, I just felt like, oh, maybe I do offer something a little,
Special. Yeah.
yeah, a little different compared to everybody else here. And I attribute it again to my mentor, Roberta, and her style of teaching Pilates. And that's what made me start thinking about that. Especially as a single mom, too, I wanted to be someone who could create my own schedule, create my own life, create my own everything. So then I could create this world and life for me and my daughter the way I wanted to. And that's really where that whole idea came in, being like, let me just hone in and create the life I want for myself. And that's what started it. That was the first intent. Is what is still the intent to keep my studio now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's happening. So I had started my studio again by the grace of my parents. My parents have been amazing. They gave me a room here at my home, their home, so not my home, their home.
Your
So
home.
my home, but their home.
Yeah.
Um, anyways, and so they gave me a room in their house to start a home Pilates studio, which I did starting August 13th officially of 2019. And I had my home studio up until, sorry, here,
Like a
Lucy.
month ago. Oh, Lucia, I think I did
Yeah,
you.
I was like, "Grandpa." Anyways, let's see, right before quarantine, actually, before coronavirus happened,
Yeah.
that's when I stopped seeing people at my studio. And ironically, just before then, like by the time January came around, I had found a physical therapist here in Albuquerque who was specializing in dance medicine of New Mexico, is what she's called. And so I had just reached out to her and I was just like, you know what? This could either go one or one way. She would either say yes or no. And I reached out to her and I was just like, hey, do you want to collaborate?
You love it. Yes, you gotta do that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that you did that.
Yeah, I kid you not. So I read this amazing book, which I was like, I'm just gonna do it. It's called The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. I highly recommend it to anybody who's like, oh, should I not? Do I not? Like, freaking go do it. Just
Yeah.
jump 5 backwards from 5 and then get up and make a move. Like literally, physically get yourself up and make a move. Anyway, so that's what impulsed me to make that email happen. And we had just discussed, well, like it was January, and we talked, and she was like, hey, you know what, I have an extra room at my physical therapy location, would you want to rent it? I was like, hell yeah, I want to do that. Yes I do. And then that's what prompted everything. So I was getting ready to make moves to move into that studio. I almost moved in a week before I signed papers. I signed papers and everything. I signed papers, and then like a week later, Corona hit. And then boom, we were on shutdown, right? And then I was like, oh, I am not doing this. No, I'm not. No, I'm not doing this. And then I was like, what do I do? I have no work.
So it stopped you for a second. Did you think since Corona happened, like you weren't gonna be able to move at all?
Yeah, completely. I was like, oh no, I'm not opening a studio. I am not investing money in this. Like, no, I don't know what to do.
And you just had a baby, and I see your body. I'm like, oh, you look amazing, Luz. I'm like, I gotta do this too, and I don't have kids. Like, oh God, I gotta do this. And it's better than a workout. You know what I mean? Like them running, I feel.
It's different. So it's more isometric movement, right?
Yeah.
Can be kind of aerobic, but it's definitely more isometric. It's great though. I mean, can't give you enough benefits of Pilates. Mostly being the breathing, which is why I did it, because the breathing is everything. You learn how to breathe correctly, you are really rejuvenating all of your organs, and you're detoxing naturally from our breath, because when we breathe in oxygen, right? It goes into our blood cells, and then when you breathe out, it moves throughout the whole body. But if we're taking a very shallow breath, well, then that affects everything. It affects how our tensions hold. It affects our stress levels. It affects our blood flow. It affects our heart rate. It just affects so much. So proper breathing and movement is everything. And that's what Pilates is all about.
And when you're like teaching, you're like, all right, guys, you're like in a movement and you're all talking. Yeah, I'm like, Luz, how do you do that? While breathing hard. That's so funny.
A lot of practice. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
Yeah, come back and do Pilates with me, Judith. That'd be great.
How did you like doing the virtual classes? Because you did them for free. Well, you did some for free, right? And then you would take some, you would take private lessons, which I took one too.
Yes. So yeah, and that's really why I started those virtual sessions, because I felt like everyone was going depressed, and like, again, this breathing thing, because this coronavirus is a respiratory thing. We need to make sure we have good, healthy lungs, which is why I decided to go, let's do free virtual session. So yeah, I did that for like 2 months
Yeah,
almost.
I think so.
It was a really long time, and almost
Yeah.
I think every day for like 2 months. Crazy. I don't know how I did that now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you would go live, Instagram live, and then you have a YouTube on it too, right? That you
Yeah, yeah.
posted.
And those are still available to be viewed. Just go to La Luz Body Align on
Yeah.
YouTube.
No, yeah, it's helpful. I need to do it again because yeah.
Yeah.
I'm up because yeah.
Yeah.
How did you
So
like doing private lessons like virtually? Did you
I
like
think
that?
yeah, no, it's been very fascinating. Like I have some clients that have stuck with me from the beginning of the coronavirus and they're still doing their sessions virtually. They feel like they're still getting something out of it. It's been great for me as a teacher because it gives me a different view of the body or a different way of cueing the body than being hands-on, which was probably the hardest because I'm in person. I'm fairly hands-on actually. I feel a lot of what the body's doing based on my touch. Like I
Oh,
feel
okay.
how it is. And then I had to kind of retrain myself to see the body. But not that I had to retrain, but I could see the whole body as a whole or
Yeah.
just part of the body. And then I had to be smart about like, okay, what your head is doing out of the picture that I see your face doing. I don't know. It's interesting. But there's just little things like that that I start to learn, which is really
Yeah.
cool. I'm like, oh, you're doing this. And people are like, yeah. Well, cool.
Well,
All
when
right.
I took that private lesson with you, like, yeah, you were like right on. You're like, no, you're doing that wrong. Do it like this. I'm like, oh yeah, it does feel good. I don't know, because I was having back issues. I mean, I still do sometimes, but it's funny you mentioned what is it, Scadia? I call it Scadia.
What's that?
No, I'm saying it wrong. It's wait, the pain you had,
Sciatic?
sciatica. Yeah, that. Yeah, I have it too, Luz. I
Scadia.
never
Yeah.
say it right. I went to the chiropractor and I told him the same thing. He's huh? I was like, yeah, that's Scadia. Oh my god.
Oh, it's so good.
But yeah, I feel you because it is painful. Like you like well with me, I don't know how it was with you, but my whole right side was going numb, like tingly and numb, and it would bother me. Like I don't know if that would happen to you.
Oh, not at
Yeah.
my. You need to come to. Yeah, we need to do Pilates. That's all. That's all I gotta say. We're gonna do Pilates.
Well, that's why I went to the chiropractor and he like aligned me again, I guess because of my nerves and stuff. And
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I feel a little better now, but now it's just like my leg. Like you don't have that pain anymore, right? Like after doing Pilates? That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It really helped a lot. Actually, I gotta say, it was something else that really helped that process. I mean, Pilates is a big part of it, but I definitely did other things. Acupuncture. Acupuncture.
Ooh, I never done that. I will look into it.
Oh, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Acupuncture, if you can get some cupping done.
You moved in a month ago, right, to your new studio?
I moved, yeah, let's see. I moved in officially, yeah, mid-August is when I moved in.
How's that been going?
It's been going really well. Yeah, I still have clients virtually, but I now I'm able to have people in person with a lot of help from my dad and my brother. We cleaned out the space that I had. There was like a counter space in there that we had to take out and just
Yeah.
make stuff. And so yeah, it all happened. And then I finally, probably last month, I got more. Actually, I'm still waiting on equipment.
What is some like advice you want to give to like future dancers, future Pilates instructors?
God, just keep going. Don't stop. Actually, one of the best pieces of advice that I received from a dancer at the Washington D.C. Ballet Company. Uh, there was a ballerina that I met during that Smithsonian Latino Center week, and I was just like, "Do you have any advice for any young aspiring dancer?" She was like, "Just have fun. Just have fun with it." She's like, "You can get so caught up in make being a great dancer, but just remember it's fun. And I was just like,
Yeah.
God. And that was really the best piece of advice I could keep for myself. Just make sure it's joyful. Just make sure movement is joyful. Make sure anything you do is joyful, because with that brings you happiness and joy and peace, and just leads you on on the path that you need to do. You know, that's your,
Yeah.
it
I
just brings
love that.
just, yeah, it brings back the whole gratitude thinking, just the whole
Just
just
appreciating the process, right?
exactly.
Enjoying the process.
Yeah, exactly. So just make sure you have fun.
I love that. And it's so true. Because when you have fun and it brings you joy, like you don't even think you're working, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I
Exactly.
love that, Luz. I'm gonna
Aw.
put it on my wall. I still love that. Let us know where people could meet you. I mean, meet you.
Well, you can meet me. Let me tell you where you can meet me, okay?
Meet me here. No, let them know your social media handles where they can reach out to you.
Well, you can find me on Facebook at La Luz Body Align. You can also find me on Instagram at La Luz Body Align. And you can find me on YouTube at La Luz Body Align.
Love it. It's so easy.
Yes, yeah. Get at me. Follow some Pilates.
If you want to take a virtual, you're still doing virtual private lessons? Yes.
Yes.
It's worth it, guys. It really is.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Luz, my cousin. Love you. Thank you for coming on and sharing your experience with us. That people take this in and they're inspired and they're able to like make their dreams come true as well as you did, you know?
Yeah. I really hope so.
Alrighty. Well, thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.